Welcome to Elite Tracker's Trap. In this video I'm going to be discussing what makes for a good or sufficient earthquake DC. There's been some ongoing discussion about what makes for a good earthquake DC. And what I've told people is, anything in the 50s is going to be good enough for epic elites. Now, doing upper end epic elites like Stormhorns here and Wayloon, I would recommend getting something in the mid 50s. There are some builds that are going up into the 60s, and there's even a build now that is claiming a 73 standing earthquake DC. That's really, really impressive, but I do think that it's wasting resources to get your DC that high. Now, right now, I'm only level 27, and I'm in a Junk Destiny, Grandmaster of Flowers. My Earthquake DC is only a 52, so I wouldn't recommend coming in here with just an Earthquake DC of 52. And this in no way showcases the build. I'm missing a lot of gear. I don't have lore items on right now. This is a tough fight, but we just want to get rid of the trash, and we don't worry about the red names here. They disappear as soon as the trash is gone. So Earthquake, is a crowd control spell, so it's not it's really a means to an end, and the end is, killing the mobs and completing the quest. You're not going to kill any mobs with Earthquake. It doesn't do very much damage at all. In fact, I would recommend to turn Maximize and Empower off for Earthquake, because it's just the knockdown ability that you care most about, and it's not worth the little bit extra damage that you get to invest those extra spell points in to do that little bit extra damage. So you can see, even with a 52, it's dropping those mobs right there. But there are definitely going to be some mobs that will save in this quest. In fact, I do expect this whole quest to be a bit of a challenge. Like I said, not in a good Destiny, low Earthquake DC, and definitely not optimally geared. And just to give you show you what my numbers are at right now, like my armor class is 109, but next level, when I get fully geared up, my armor class will be up to 176, so huge difference. My PRR, I think, is going to be 123, so not a big difference there. Be bugged out. Well, we'll just leave him be. So, for higher evasion mobs like some archers, Shardacry assassins, um, 52 or even in the mid-50s is not going to be adequate. Even mid-50s will drop the assassins sometimes. Even at 52, I should probably drop them sometimes. But with archers usually aren't a big deal. You can't kite archers around. You can't herd them into a tight group, so that you can throw an earthquake on, drop a bunch of them. They don't tend to follow you. Usually not a big deal. In fact, I really like archers because they torque me up. So I often just leave them be. So the mage there, you could see he got up for a few seconds. He had fallen initially, he got up for a few seconds, and then fell right back down. One of the things that you want to make sure when you're analyzing how somebody's getting their earthquake DC to whatever number that they're claiming is you want to look at whether or not they're factoring in Mantle to Icy Soul. Now, some people will factor that right into the DC, but that's a little ingenuine because Mantle to Icy Soul does not affect the DC of your earthquake. It affects the mob's saves, and so while that may sort of have the same net effect, so that everybody's speaking the same language, you shouldn't factor it in because, like I said, it doesn't actually affect the earthquake DC. And Mantle to Icy Soul, if you're not familiar with it, is a buff. It's a 9th level buff that you can only use in water elemental form, and it gives a 25% penalty to movement speed, 10% penalty to attack speed, and -4 penalties to reflex and fortitude saves of enemies that are hit by your cold spells. So while I'm sitting at a 52 DC right now, there are some people that would say that that's a 56 DC, and that's not how I'm counting it. This is just a raw 52, and when I say I'm running at 56 at endgame, that's not factoring in the -4 from the mantle, so sort of, in a sense, functionally 60 for mobs that are hit by my cold spells, but not a raw score of 60. So the mage again made it save right away, but after a few seconds fell right down. And we can just stand here and watch everybody else trip and stumble and die in the AoEs. Ooh, they ran out a little prematurely. So if you were just throwing an earthquake and doing nothing else, you probably would want a DC a lot higher. Like, for example, there's somebody who's talking about doing like a wolf build and what earthquake DC they should get. Because they may not be throwing all the other spells that I'm throwing at the same time. And that's going to make a difference. But this is the kind of attack pattern, if you will, that probably wouldn't want to go with if you're like a pure caster kind of a druid. Because like I said earlier, you know, Earthquake is just a crowd control spell. You know, you're not going to kill any mobs with it. It's a means to an end. And the way that you are most effectively killing mobs with a caster kind of a druid is with your AoEs. Or at least that's the most efficient way. Now, Greater Creeping Cold, and Creeping Cold is a great combination to throw on single targets, but can be quite costly in terms of spell points to do that to every single mob. Warlock made a save, stood up for a second, looks like he got a spell off, and then falls right back down. So they're actually having to make saves every 3 seconds. I'm going to skip the optionals in this video because they don't have as many spell points as I would otherwise, like an endgame. I don't want to have to drink pots for this. This topic of Earthquake DC, I think is an important one to discuss. It's important to me too because I really hate to see. Oh, here's some assassins. I really hate to see, you know, people that are newer to Druid, they're just making their first Druid and they're wondering, you know, what DC do I need? And it can be really discouraging to think, oh, I gotta have, you know, 65 or 70 DC. And as you can see, you know, you can make it work with a lot lower than that. Even with a simple spell like Sleet Storm, you can slow down those assassins pretty effectively, so you can get away from them pretty easily. Slowing down to a crawl. It's pretty cool moving in slow motion though. A big fight coming up here with a red named giant. I'm gonna go back and use the beginning shrine. Optional up ahead. Now the chests that are just sitting out here in the open, you may already be aware that could be a mimic. It may be a chest. If it's a chest, it's just gonna be a junk chest. If it's a mimic, there's such a pain in this game. I'm not sure why they chose to make mimics so ridiculously tough. at least in Wayloon and Stormhorns. Maybe not so much in the Madness Chain. These archers here, I'm actually going to keep them there so that they torque me up while I'm fighting this guy. This fight is probably going to take a long time. I think that is a animated object trap, so I'm going to get those barrels out of there. The fatter they are, the fatter they fall. So if you had patience, you could actually stay here. You'd probably take a few minutes and torque all the way up. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. And there's our full bar. We'll save that shrine to come back during the middle of the end fight. Now these archers, I'm just gonna let them stick around to torque me up. I'm just trying to be cheap by using SLAs only on these. time to go use that shrine. Oh, that was a close call. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball. That would have been a tragedy to die right there after all this. And that is Epic Elite Tracker Strap in a Trash Destiny with a 52 Earthquake DC. So hopefully you've seen that, while not ideal, that you can make a low 50s DC work even in Epic Elite endgame quests. And while I would recommend a higher DC, as I've said, many times in the forums, that once you start getting up into like the 60s and 70s, I really feel like you can spend those feats and those twists better elsewhere to make yourself more survivable or more well-rounded or what have you. Thanks for watching.